Good morning, this is Mr. Smith. This is our Unit 3 first lesson, solving quadratic equations. This builds really nicely on the unit that we just worked on, which was quadratics and their various forms. So this unit is really about making a distinction between a quadratic function and a quadratic equation. Now, a quadratic function, which we just spent a whole unit doing, has input values and output values, has two variables, x's and y's, or f at x's and x's. It looks like a parabola. It's all this different stuff. What we're looking at in this particular unit is a quadratic equation and then by extension its solutions. So the big difference that I want to talk about right out of the gate is that while a quadratic function has an input value, which would be our x's, and an output value, our f at x or our y, a quadratic equation only has one variable, the input value. The output value is replaced with a 0, which, if we think about this in terms of a quadratic function, means that we have, I'm just going to scooch down to the bottom here, it means if you can imagine parabolas in a variety of different scenarios, let's look at our first one here. There are, in this particular parabola, two x-intercepts. And these two x-intercepts, if you could imagine basically sort of erasing all of the extra stuff in this parabola and just focusing on the places where it crosses the x-axis, i.e. where our output value is equal to 0, you'll see that we have, instead of there being two x-intercepts, we are going to have two solutions. So that's one possibility. Second possibility is if we were to have one x-intercept, so if our parabola was sitting right on our x-axis, you can imagine, again, if we were to just ignore the rest of this parabola and only focus on the parts that cross or touch the x-axis, we would have, instead of one x-intercept, we would have one solution. And finally, in some cases, we have parabolas that open up with a vertex above the x-axis that have no x-intercepts, or open down and have a vertex below the x-axis. Again, if you can imagine just ignoring the parabola part as we focus on just the quadratic equation, no intercepts would correspond to there being no solutions. So for us, really our focus in this unit is to consider that given a quadratic equation, i.e. basically a quadratic function that we've dictated the output value is going to be 0, then there are possibly two, one, or no solutions. So how do we go about figuring out what these solutions will be? This box right here gives you sort of a quick little summary on different ways that you can find out what the x-intercepts will be. Some of these we're going to tackle in this unit, some of them we will have already done. For example, number 4 on this list of ways to find what the solutions of a quadratic equation would be is graphing. Well, we've already done that. We spent Unit 2 graphing quadratics in a variety of forms, so we're not going to really focus on that one here. Instead, we're going to focus on 1, 2, and 3 in that list, and the first one specifically today, rearranging and taking square roots. So let's look at some examples.